Hi. What we're going to do now, we're going to go ahead and take off this set of antlers. A lot of antlers are taken off the carcass the wrong way off the head. Doesn't make any difference if it's a deer or an elk or a caribou or a moose for that matter. Or a sheep. Sheep, you have to be careful because of the way the horns actually wrap around the animal. Since this is a bull elk, this is a 6x6 bull elk. It's commonly referred to as a royal elk. A 7x7 is an imperial elk, and an 8x8 is a monarch elk. You count the individual points on each side. You don't say you killed a 12-point elk, you say you killed a 6x6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Same way with the deer. If it's a 6x6 or a 3x3 or a 3x4, whatever. You don't say you killed a 12-point deer. You say you killed a 6x6. That way people know there's 6 points on each side. Or if it's a 3x4 or a 3x5, 3 points on one side, 5 points on the other. This one here is Rocky Mountain Bull Elk. See, it's a real nice elk. Nice thick mass. Not very wide, but it's kind of tall. Now what I have to do is simply cut down here at an angle, then come back, cut down here at an angle. Being careful that we don't cut into the burrs. As you've probably seen if you watched any of my other movies, earlier movies, I was just going back and forth with the old meat saw. You can do that, but if you have to do 10 or 15 of these a day, it gets very tiresome. That's why we use a saw. You can usually pick these up at Wally World, Walmart, or from your taxidermy supply dealer. Usually get a better deal from your hardware store or Wally World, Walmart. Usually right around from $80 to $100. I like to use a 12-inch blade. Sometimes I'll put a wood cutting blade on here, big teeth, and that way it cuts in faster. Sometimes it gets away from you, so you're kind of better off to go with the bimetal saw blade because you're not really cutting into metal, obviously, but this bone is very hard. And that's what we're going to do. I have my wife come over here and kind of hang on to these antlers. It's kind of a two-person deal. You really don't need two people, but it's best to be safe, especially if you're working with a customer's elk. Customer's mount, you always want to be careful. It's kind of windy today, got some things boiling, and a few other noises going around. So let me get situated here. Me being left-handed, I kind of do things a little backwards compared to most other people. Now, if I cut up here much closer, I'll be cutting into some really thick bone. So I want to avoid that and go this way, kind of cut in at an angle, back here and pull that off. And once I get all this pulled off, I just go ahead and take some 20 mule team borax, simple borax, or bird preservative, there's a few other little chemicals mixed in there, and rub on the bone once I clean out the brain material and things like that. Of course, I'll be having gloves on then. When I went to take the blade out, I took my finger off the trigger and I pulled it straight out. I didn't want to go back in because this blade's going like this and it can get caught up in the bone, bend your blade. Now, you can see how that cut went. Of course, you can go down a little bit further. Years ago, we'd have to split them flat top for the forms. But right now, obviously, in the year 2004, getting ready to go into 2005, we have all high quality forms been anatomically corrected as far as sculpting goes, and This is about all we need to go ahead and mount onto the form. Now we want to be careful we don't cut it too short, because these are heavy antlers, you're going to weaken it. But we don't have to worry about that. So here I'll go here. Go ahead and get the saw out of the way. Back here, my wife got it. Thank you. And here, if there's any other tissue that's on here, what we do here, obviously, is go ahead and clean out all the brain matter. Throw that away. Got to be careful of CWD, chronic wasting disease. Those prions. Incidentally, it's probably a wise thing to get everything tested that you are going to consume later on, as far as elk or deer go. CWD, chronic wasting disease, a few other diseases are starting to show up in populations of animals, and there's no explanation of why, other than some ranchers trying to grow big antlers on deer. They're feeding them the same stuff that been feeding cattle for years, been mixed in with all this meat and other products, and that's how some of the disease is being spread. Of course, it's being spread by animal-animal contact, saliva, body fluids, things like this. Anyway, as we can see, I cut away most of this meat. Now, later on, obviously, we're going to go ahead and boil this here and get everything properly prepared. You can see right here's the upper membrane, right where the brain was at. We pull that down. Sometimes you can grab it, sometimes you can't. Now you got to kind of be a little bit careful, because if you slip, these two sides here are kind of sharp. You'll tear through your glove. Doesn't mean you're going to die, but give you a nasty cut. Now we got all that out. We can clean this up a little bit more if you want, but for the purposes of this video, but what I have in here is what I call my bird preservative. I'll just tell you right now, it's 20 miltene borax, and there's a couple other ingredients. I'll write those down in my book I'm working on. So we'll just take that 20 miltene borax and sprinkle that around there. Set this off. Put it up so it can go ahead and dry, and then later on we can come back and work on it. And that's how you cut off most any antlers. Just like this, nice and strong, and then obviously you can trim it to fit the way you want it to fit on your form. You no longer need the flat top version. Now, before you do anything else, for example, if you're wanting to do an antler mount yourself, always cut away all the hair and everything from around here, or if you want to do a European mount, always skin the skin off the animal. I'm boiling something over here right now a customer brought me in that is absolutely atrocious as far as that goes. He let it rot for a couple of weeks. There's hair on it. We took off what we could, and now we're boiling it. So to avoid all these problems, just go ahead and skin it out, cut all the meat off that you can. If you're just going to go ahead and do an antler mount or a European mount, and then we can go ahead and boil the skull or use bugs, whatever your particular method is. Go ahead and clean it up. That's all we got to say on this right now. It's the same technique. This is a lot easier to carry and store, obviously. It's cleaner and more hygienic than trying to store this whole thing someplace. And then here, you just throw all this away. And if you were going to get something tested for CWD, you would go ahead and take this part of the animal down to the testing station, and then they'll go ahead and test all this, the brain, interior, etc., for chronic wasting disease. You know, a lot of times people get blood all over their antlers. Deer antlers, moose antlers, elk antlers like these. Here's a nice, respectable set of elk antlers from the state of Colorado. The question always is, how do you get them off? How do you get all that blood off? You just take some regular peroxide that you get. You don't use the industrial strength type peroxide. You use the regular type peroxide. In a spray bottle, you can pour it on or rub it on a rag, then rub it on. Watch this. Right there where all that blood is. Now again, it's got to be like the regular strength peroxide you get from Walmart, Wally World, and you want to make sure it's just a normal strength. What is this here? Let me see. Well, it doesn't even tell me. What about 5%? No, 3% is what this is. You notice how it's foaming up. It's breaking down the proteins, making it where we can actually wipe that blood off. If you're worried about whiting out the antlers, which you shouldn't have to, you can just go ahead and use soap and water or a little bit of Windex to do the same thing. But you can see that there, it foams it up. You can start to wipe that right off. Get all that blood off. There's some blood that worked its way down there into the cracks. So usually then what I would do, I would go ahead and take a Q-tip, something like that, or maybe the end of a rag, and soak that, rub that in there and get all that off. If you have to go ahead and scrub your antlers and get them clean, you must be aware you're going to take away some of the coloring. They're not going to be as dark as they were. So you have to keep that in mind. Don't get carried away. Don't use any wire brushes. A regular soft nylon brush will work. But in reality, I don't see why you have to use that. But that's all you got to do to go ahead and take the blood off. You want to get that off as soon as possible. Sometimes you may not have an opportunity to take the blood off from any antlers for a long time, maybe many, many months. But if you have nothing else better to do, and you're the hunter out there, go ahead and spray it on, let it soak in there a little bit, and get it rubbed right off. And that's how you can easily take that off. Incidentally, a little bit of hydrogen peroxide on blood or stains on your clothing. Let that work in there a little bit. That'll take it off there too. It could bleach out the clothing a little bit, but so you want to be careful with that. Now, another good way just to remove stains, just to let you know, if you got blood stains, you can take meat tenderizer, work it into a paste, because it's usually in powder form, work it into a paste, rub it on that blood stain, let it soak there a little bit, you can wash it away. No problem there at all. But we can go ahead and do this again. We can come back. But you see, if I keep this up, I'm going to whiten this out a little bit. So I don't want to do that. But that's basically how you take those off. Now we got some more up here. We'll do the same thing. Notice how that's foaming up. Works very well. Just come in, wipe that right off. Now you can see how this whitened out a little bit, but that's okay. That's natural. That was polished by the elk when it was going up against trees and stuff to rub the velvet off when it was in velvet. And as a matter of fact, you can see here a tip here where it didn't even get a chance to pull that off yet. This here is an old bull. I kind of figure it's about 8 years old, 7.5 to 8 years old. Even got some broken tines on it. It's a heck of a good hunt, I can guarantee you that. There it is. And that's how you do it. You just take your time, clean them up. Well, let's look at a little bit of quick, simple antler repair. Putting the gloves on, we're going to be using some glues, well actually one glue. It's Gorilla Glue. No, I don't own any of the factory or any stock. It'd be nice if I did, though. This stuff's kind of expensive. But right here, I want you to take a good look at the set of antlers. It was brought into us. It was originally covered in velvet, and the individual brought it to us. He let it lay around for about 2 weeks in his garage. Apparently this here was a deer that was killed on this property. I don't know if it was hit by a car and went over there and died, or a individual shot it out of season, or what the deal was. But make a long story short, he didn't want to see anything else go to waste, and he brought it to us 2 weeks after it happened. So everything rotted. It was a stinking mess. So we pulled off most all of the velvet, and we burned off what little bit of hairs that were on here. Now we got to come back and strip off a little bit more velvet, and then we can go ahead and start the coloring process. But what we're going to talk about here today is basic, simple antler tip repair. I say tip, but in reality you can actually do this with the whole beam of antler if you had to. Now this is one tip that came off here. Incidentally, this is here a mule deer, Colorado mule deer. So what I did earlier was, this is the part here that was broken. Apparently when the deer fell over or whatever, it was a pressure break. Big chunk here that, kind of hard for the video maybe, that's missing. And here I had to grind this down a little bit because of the way it protruded out and bent over and dried. And you have to make sure everything fits back right the way you want. Now I chose to use Gorilla Glue because it expands when it dries. The thing about using Gorilla Glue, the secret I should say, is that everything's got to be wet when you go to put it together. So we're going to use plain old water. And what I did was, now these antlers, like I said, these here are some terrific mule deer antlers. I've got to tell you this here. And at the first part of this video, I put a few pictures in there of what this deer looked like alive. But again, instead of letting everything go to waste, the individual brought these in, and here they are. Too bad we couldn't save them in velvet. They were too far gone and rotten. But what I did was, went ahead and took a drill, appropriate drill bit size, drilled a hole roughly about 3 inches in. Now I had to be careful that I didn't drill through another part of the antler. Now on the tip that was broken, drilled a hole in there. Now, I took a screw, where you can go ahead and use square tubing steel stock, a nail, or something else. The reason why I chose a screw was because you have these ridges that will adhere to any type of hard material that clings to it. And the screw head I ground down with a grinder to go ahead and fit into the hole. See, it's going to fit like this. Squirt glue in there. Now, this here is, again, expanding glue. It's a special type of glue. And what I'm going to do now, go ahead and put glue in there, run some tape around here to hold it, and then that glue is going to expand. I'm going to let that dry, pull the tape off, come back, sandpaper this down, get everything looking just right, all the contours, everything looking just right so you can't tell it. Then I can come back and go ahead and color it. So that's what I'm going to have to do here. Now, it's a simple process. Now, you use the appropriate size connections, fasteners, screws, nails, tubes, or whatever it is, depending upon the size of antler that you're working with. The procedure you see here will vary with the size of the antler. For example, if this was a main beam, we would have to use possibly a double or triple hole setup with triple pegs going down for strength. Now, Gorilla Glue is just my glue of choice for this particular job. There's plenty of other epoxies and glues and whatnot on the markets that you can go ahead and use. This here seems to work, and I've used it before, so this is what we're going to do. So now basically what I'm going to do here, take this. The reason why I have gloves on is because you do not want to get any of this here on your hands. Alright, I'm going to squirt some glue in there. Now, before I squirt a whole bunch in there, let me go ahead and get a little bit of water. Let me get a little bit of, where's that piece at right here? There it is. Got up and walked away. I want to put a little bit of water in there. Shake that out. It's not really a big deal, but the water is the activator I found out on this. I want to put some glue in here. And again, this here expands. It foams out. That's going to be good because it's going to help fill these ridges that I can go ahead and, like I said before, come back and sandpaper that down, blend all that in. Then I can go ahead and use my epoxy modeling compounds, come back and model all this here, get everything look good. Then we can go ahead and color the antlers and proceed with an antler mount. That's what the individual wanted on here. So I'm going to go ahead and put this all around. Not only down there in the hole in the crevice, I'm going to put it around this area here because once this expands, it's going to fill up these cracks, and it's just going to make my job a little bit easier. Now, if you're working with a set of antlers that do not need to be stained and they have good color to them, you got to be a little bit careful because you don't want to go ahead and ruin it where you get too much glue foaming out, and then you have to come back and sandpaper everything down. Then before you know it, you have to restain the whole thing. So, but in this particular case here, I'm not too worried about it because this is exactly what needs to be done. It all needs to be stained. Again, now I'm just squirting a little bit more in there. Sometimes I use too much, but that's my fault. Now, I have that in there. One piece here I had to shave down. Now, go ahead and check this, see how that's going to work. Because I know once this starts, it's really going to set up. See, now, I kind of think this may not foam up that much, so I'll put a little bit extra in there. I'd just rather be safe than sorry. Have a really concrete hold on there, so to speak. But this Gorilla Glue seems to work for a variety of different things. So, alright. Now, and the whole idea to have a piece of metal in here is to give it the strength, the holding power. Because you could actually glue a piece on here, well, that's great, it's really great, but then you come up and you hit it and you knock it off, but it's not going to happen this way. Because what this particular glue is going to do is going to expand, fill up any crevices, and just lock down real tight. Again, it's going to squirt out here, foam out there, so I'm going to, got that on there, get a piece of duct tape or any other suitable tape that you have. Put that around there to hold it in place. Now, I'll let that stay there, probably 2 hours. Come back, pull the tape off, get busy, evening everything out, blending it in, getting some more sculpting compound, actually the epoxies, take care of that piece that's missing, coming back, and then do a few more things to these antlers, then it'd be ready to go ahead and start staining. But this here is one heck of a trophy mule deer. I'll tell you what, something like this here, anyone ought to be satisfied shooting something this big. That's how you do it. Simple antler repair. You can use this on any set of antlers. You just have to modify different things depending upon the size of the antlers that you're working with. And that's it. Staining antlers. Sometimes it's a real pain, you know what I mean? Or a pill won't reach. But anyway, you have to evaluate each set of antlers that you work with and what it is you want to do, what needs to be done. We got on these particular antlers, they're not really too far gone yet. Usually once a set of antlers sits out in the sun for a long period of time, I mean a long period of time, usually they start chalking up, turn it into chalk, get crumbly. They're so porous that anything you put on there just goes all the way in, and just you have blotches. Some goes all the way in, some stays on top, and it really looks terrible. Now I tested this pair of antlers. It came out pretty good. You can use potassium permanganate, which is also a purifier for water. You can go ahead and sterilize water that way, but we won't talk about that. It's for a survival class. But potassium permanganate, if you put that on, it goes on purple, and then it dries a brown color. Well, throughout the years, I've noticed that there's different formulations that you can use, different stains, from Old English scratch remover, cover, whatever. That works good. A whole bunch of them. This one here, I'm using Minwax Wood Finish Penetrating Stain Special Walnut 224. It works great. Now, as you do this, just go ahead and get yourself a chip brush or any other brush. Dip it in there, put it on, then come back if you want, and you can rub any off that you have. Now it will go in there, and once it goes in there, it's not coming off unless you go through a complete strip down with turpentine or mineral spirits or something else. But once it seeps in there, it's there. But these antlers here are at the point where they can still be salvaged, which is good for me. It's good business. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and start staining this, brushing it on, getting a little bit thicker down here. If it's too much, I can come back, wipe a little bit off anything that stays on the surface. It's going to take a good couple days for this here to dry thoroughly. There may be a residual odor after a while, but that too will dissipate in time. This here is going to look good when it's done. Now this is what it looks like now. I'm going to come up here. I'm not just going to slop it on, although whenever I paint, it kind of looks like slop. Come in here, go like that. It's looking a little dark, but it's going to lighten up. Now as you come in here a little bit closer with the camera, you can see that we do have cracks amongst here. To actually make this here look 100% brand new would be a very, very expensive process. $300 or more just for that. However, this works fine. The customer will be happy. You will be happy. And you can save everybody money. I'm all about trying to save some people money because I know things are tight out there. Everything's costly. Everything costs a fortune. I'm amazed. I'm still stuck in the 1970s. Anyway, well, 1970s I didn't have any money either, so nothing's really changed. But so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and do this front and back. Do it in the front, do it in the back. Come on back. Now you see I got a little bit of excess there. I'm not worried about that really because I can come right back. Wipe that off if I want. Look at that. Stain those right up. Now if I wanted to later, I could come back with maybe a different shade or put another coat on there to make them darker. But I don't want to do that. I want to keep it as realistic as possible. So we saw what it looks like now. Let's come back after I get this done after it's going to be set up to dry, and we'll go from there. Now, when I come up here to the antler burrs, I want to make sure all that's going through very well. You dab it down in there and get all that. Now you can come back and polish some of these if you want little nips and stuff on here. You can spend actually 10 to 15 hours or more if you really want to be that particular about a set of antlers. But we're being realistic, we're doing a good job, we're going to make everybody happy. So we'll see you in a little bit. Looks a lot different from the white set that was there. What do you guys think? Well, here you are. We're pretty much done with the staining portion of the antlers. This one here is going into an antler mount, as I indicated earlier. And there you go. Looks a lot different. Take a look at the original one when it first got here. Now look at this one. It's different, huh? Turned out good. It's a real nice looking 6x6 bull elk, Rocky Mountain bull elk.